Charlie on? It's attending online. It's working. Okay, we'll call the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order, June 22nd. In attendance, myself, Mike Ergo, First Selectman, Kate, Selectwoman, Bob Carlson, Selectman, Christine Diaz, Admin Finance, and in attendance also Juliet Hodge, our planner, and Daryl Del Grosso, our assessor. And thank you to all the public who are attending online and in person. We'll start it out with public comment on agenda and non-agenda items, if there are any. And if there's any hands, Christine.
So if you are attending the meeting online, if you would please raise your hand and then you can be recognized.
If there's no comments, that's okay too.
Seeing that.
No comments except here in the audience. Yes, Pat.
Where in this agenda will we talk about sewer study?
So the sewer study, the question is where in this agenda will we talk about the sewer study? There is no agenda item for the sewer study on the agenda.
Added on though, as far as maybe the RFP for water
I think you're talking about the water testing.
testing.
We will talk about that. That's number 6, but nothing about the sewers.
That was included along with that. Attached to that.
Oh, yes, the RFP was attached. That's a water. Yes, we're going to talk about that agenda item number 6. That's not sewer.
All right, so that comes on sewer study, but for that to talk about.
Okay. So no comments. Is the chief in attendance yet? Chief, if chief's in attendance, you can raise your hand. If not, what I'm going to do is move. I'm going to make a motion that we move agenda items 3 and 4 following agenda item number 10. So we can just make them 10A and B, I guess. For now, if he shows up, we can talk about it. And do I have a second to that motion? Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye, motion carries. I'd also like to add an agenda item. We'll call it 5A. To adopt a certified resolution. The agenda item would be adoption of a certified resolution for survey planning grant and housing restoration grant. This just came up today. That's why it wasn't on the agenda originally. Shouldn't be any big deal, but I'll make that motion to add that item. For further discussion.
One question, this is in regards to
This is the Gallup House. This is for the Gallup House, so we'll talk about it when it gets to it, but this is for the funds to do renovations.
all right.
So we did receive the grant. We received it, but we have to approve this resolution.
We received one of them.
One of the grants.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll talk about it when we get to it. But I just wanted to motion it on for us to approve the resolution, which has to be done prior to the meeting that's happening on July 7th, I think. That's the only reason we can't wait another meeting. Any further discussion on this? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. So we'll go to the tax relief program discussion. With us is Daryl. And we did kind of brush the surface of this last time. We had some technical difficulties, and we're happy that Daryl's here in person to talk about the local tax relief options with us. So Daryl, if you can stand if you'd like at the microphone, or you can just sit down with it, just turn it on, so speak into it so everyone can hear you.
Is that another way?
Replace the one that you got. Not too much.
Thank you. I mean, we can share. Yeah, hardship is no problem.
Okay, good evening.
Yes, turn it on.
Good evening. Darrell Del Grosso, Assessor, Town of North Stonington. I was asked to take a look at the local options that the state of Connecticut has given the towns to aid the elderly homeowners that are on the program currently. Currently, the town participates in the state program that allows elderly and disabled homeowners that are low income to get a break on their taxes. I was asked to look into the program to increase that benefit. And under local option 12-129N, it allows the town for people that are at least 65 years old, one of the couples. They have to be a resident of the town for 1 year. They have to own the property or have a life use in the property. And the town has the option for what income limits to set and what benefit to set. My proposal would be that we go along with the state program, which in the sheet that I gave you shows the incomes, and just double or tag along with what the state gives. The state gives a minimum of $150. We would give also $150 for $300. And on the upper limit, they give $250. We would give $250 for a $500 reduction in property tax. It would cost the town approximately $46,000 to do this. We can be more generous if we wish. We can change the income if we wish, but if we do change the income to raise it, then the problem would be that what we do, the state wouldn't match. The way that I would propose to do it would be just to tag along with what the state does. And in fact, that's what most towns do. They tag along with using the same income the state uses, the same brackets the state uses, and then just double, or they could triple, whatever you'd like to do.
So the state this is all, anything above and beyond what the state offers, it's on the town.
It's on the town, that's correct.
And this will only benefit those that are 65 and old.
Correct, there's other programs if you'd like to. There's a program for, it doesn't say your age, but if your taxes are more than 8% of your income, we can then give you a reduction. Reduction can be a gift, or we can put a lien on the house. If we give more than 75% of the taxes, the state tells us to put a lien on the house. We get to choose the interest rate, but there's an interest rate included. And it defers the taxes until either the house is sold or the occupant, the elderly person, dies.
Or it could be a gift, so that there's no interest rate.
It can be a gift if we wish, up to 75% of the taxes. So they would have to pay 25%.
And then the other thing we talked about, Darrell, at least we had talked about, was the idea of the emergency responders and
Yes.
possibility of some sort of credit there.
And we can do that too, along with the fire department. They would set the criteria. We would set how much we'd like to give them as a reduction in their property tax. Usually it's $1,000.
Yeah.
That's the most popular, $1,000.
Thank you for this info. Selectmen, questions for Darrell?
Darrell, the liens,
Mhm.
is that done by the state?
No, town. We put the lien on the property through the town clerk, and we set the interest rate.
All right, so it's strictly up to the town.
Yep.
So the 150 is paid by the state, and then we would pay.
Currently, the state gives between $250 for max and $150 for minimum. Okay? Most people receive 250 because the 250 is a percentage, and that's 10%. So if your taxes are more than $2,500, which most people do pay more than $2,500 in property tax, then $250 is all you get.
Unless the town increases that.
And that's what this local option does. This local option allows the town to set a number. And I just selected doubling what the state gives, but we could go 2 times, 3 times.
Understood. So, if I'm a homeowner and I wanted to have this, apply for this, do I go to the tax collector or do I go to
My office.
and it always has to be applied, it's not automatic, so if someone wants.
Every 2 years is an application period. Okay, so you come in every 2 years and you apply for the program. You have to bring in your proof of income so that you make sure your income falls within the guidelines that is on the sheet that I gave you. And that tells what percentage of benefit you get. And we take it from there.
So the reason, one of the reasons that would be easier with what Daryl's proposing is that we already have verification of these people because these these are the income levels that we are already validating, or the state's already validating through their program.
Right, and so we know that $46,000 is what we're reimbursed by the state. And if we just match what the state does, we know it will cost the town $46,000. There's other programs. We can freeze the taxes. And what that does is that takes the tax that you're paying currently, freezes them. The increase that we do next year would not be effective on the house, the elderly, and for any year going forward. Wow, in 1978, and I'm showing my age, the state had the program called the freeze. What happened was it got extremely expensive for the state. And what they did was they said no more new applicants. People that were on the program could stay on the program, but no more new applicants. And what that did was the state couldn't afford it.
Right, and it just phased out.
And it's now phased out because the people, you have to be almost 95 now to be still on the program. I think they have less than 25 people still on the program statewide.
So just an observation, and this has been brought up before by, I think, Board of Finance members as well. These income levels are pretty low that we're using. So, I mean, I think there's thought of, do we want to go outside of that? Do we want to increase the income levels for eligibility? The other thing is, it's not just seniors that are struggling, possibly. You may have, single parent households. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are in need. So I guess, it's really, I think what we need to do is kind of decide, okay, what kind of program would we like to see? And then, Daryl can take direction from us on what we'd like to put together. I don't know if you guys want to have more discussions with Board of Finance together, or, I mean, it's really our job to put it forth, but I'm just talking.
So we have a number, Darryl, $47,000 as of, with the parameters he has set. If we lower the age and raise the income level, it's going to change that number. So I think we should discuss it. I think we should approve something like this, but I'd like to see what the numbers are at a reduced age and at a higher income level.
The problem is we're not going to know, because
The problem is you can't reduce the age.
not on this program.
The state program, correct,
Yeah.
you can't, the age is set.
No, but on this program, we can't.
Well, not on 129N, no.
Right, but we have another program,
There's another program, right.
which we could offer. So I think what we're talking about is a possible suite of tax relief programs. I mean,
Okay, there is a program, it's 12-124A, and the homeowner pays 8% of the tax, anything over 8% of their, if the tax is over 8% of their income, then we take we do the rest.
Yep.
Okay, and there is no age or anything, but I couldn't find anybody in the state that had that program. It's there,
It's just nobody's doing it.
it's just nobody has done it.
But
Bob?
So my feeling is, why don't we have multiple programs? We know what this one is. So rather than tie this up with extra work to come up with additions to this program, why don't we approve this program, if that's what we choose to do, and then look at a second or a third program to address the other issues.
And you may do that. Yeah, you can do that if you wish.
At least if we did that, we get the ball rolling at one program in, and we can work on the other ones. That's my opinion.
What's your feeling about how much? The benefit amount? More than $500?
so Daryl's proposed to us doubling what the state
Right.
offers, so the doubling is on the town, and that's that amount of $47,000, which we will need to.
That's giving everybody 250. If you want to give them 500, 600, you could set the number, whatever number you'd like.
Oh, by doubling, you gave us the number, what it would be for an expense for the town at this point. I think it's a good place to start.
Right.
So, I mean,
And that was a start, but that's what my feeling was. It was a start. We could change it in the future, see how it works, see what the people think.
mhm.
You know, I never asked the elderly what they thought. Now, I will say one thing, we have a renters program. The majority of the people on the renters program live in the mobile home parks that we have. And the reason for it, it's more generous than this program. Okay, because of the percentage that they get off on their taxes, 10%. And if the mobile home or the manufactured home doesn't carry a large assessment. So they go to the renters program where they get a dollar amount. In order to be real generous for that, you'd have to really up the program.
So Mike, I think that because this is what we know tonight, this is what we have in front of us, I'd be willing to motion to approve this, and then we could maybe do some sort of a workshop down the road and look at other alternatives.
You're talking for next year.
Can I ask you a question? Any consideration of a deed restriction on the house if you do expand that program? Because I'm pretty sure that's what, I don't know, years ago, I think Daryl was actually looking into it a few years ago on our behalf. You know, if you were going to expand it to include single family households or some other program that we consider that, so at least we get some.
I think we're gonna, it's gonna be, sounds like as it's shaping up, that'll be a separate conversation. Whether that's considered or not, I don't know, but it's certainly something we can talk about. Go ahead, Christine.
Daryl, this will have to go to town meeting before it goes into effect. Is there any sort of time period or window that we have to, so say we had a town meeting in a few months where it got approved, would it go into effect current year, or would it be for the next set of bills?
For the 21 grand list. You can't do anything this year yet because we're so late.
When you're saying this year, you're talking about,
Well, the application ended already.
yes,
So
what fiscal year are we talking about?
2020 grand list is done.
So the grand list year and the fiscal year numbers don't match up. So right now, we're in fiscal year 2021, but it's grand list 2020.
Correct.
So this is, you're talking grand list year 2021.
Yes,
Correct.
he's saying that it can't go into effect for next year, we have to wait.
Next year.
Whole other cycle. So that solves the conundrum of where I was thinking about is depending on how many people apply for this, we could be short $47,000, but really we won't be because we'll just have to consider that when we set the mill rate next.
Correct.
And so we have time to implement these other programs as well for next year.
Yeah, if you give me some more numbers, I could tell you what the cost is gonna be. I chose the 250 max, 150 minimum.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
you're not gonna know, there's no way for you to know, like the 8% program.
That one is
You're not gonna know.
shot in the dark.
You're gonna have no idea. There's no way to budget for that because we don't know who would apply. The only way we'll know is if we decide to do something like that, we'd have an application period that was open for X amount of time. And it would be during this upcoming fiscal year, and then we'd know once we had applicants, what the number would be, right?
Or you could set aside so much money, like $200,000 when it's, and it gets prorated.
Yeah, but we could do an app, like I just described, Harold, we could do an application period, right?
Right.
Like we could do that from, say, October to,
Application period is set by state statute, February 1 to May 15th. Because they have to have their income tax done.
okay. That's interesting. Okay, then that's fine then. So February, so we have time, we have plenty of time. So Bob, if you were gonna motion to approve this, I mean, that can be a done deal. And then I think my thought would be, I'm very interested in hearing about the 8% program for others who are outside of the elderly. And I'm also interested in an emergency responders tax credit program to help drive more volunteerism and reward our responders.
I agree with you on that, so I would make a motion then that we approve this program as presented by Darrell this evening, as written, with taking Darrell's suggestion of doubling the amount that the state is offering. Once we get this approved tonight.
Yeah, that way if the state changes next year the amounts, then because we're gonna piggyback with them, we're just gonna piggyback with them
With the amounts, yeah.
with the amounts.
So the, Bob motion need a second. Is there any further discussion on this?
I'm not on this, but I do think that what you mentioned about getting some of the board of finance involved would be good for the next one.
I think we'll update the Board of Finance on our approval of this at their next meeting, or we'll send them a memo that it's been approved, for their next meeting, should it carry.
And just to clarify, we're approving it to send it to town meeting.
So this has to go to town meeting, yeah, so that's right. Sorry. We're approving it to send to town meeting, and since the application period isn't until
February 1,
February, there's not a rush to send this to town meeting.
that's correct.
We can add on to it with the other programs.
Exactly.
Or you could get some feedback from the people in the town about what income limits and what kind of benefit levels they'd like to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think, depending on who you talk to, you're gonna get different opinions on all that, but I think this is a good start, so you're approving it you're making the motion to send it to, recommend it to town meeting.
Correct.
Need a second, so further discussion on this? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 3-0-0. And Daryl, so I think what we're directing you to do is to put together a proposal for that 8% program and also the emergency responders.
Okay,
And so, and let's circle back, sometime this summer and talk about that.
okay.
Any other questions for Daryl? All right, thank you, Daryl.
Yep.
Appreciate that. I would like to move that back up in consideration of his time. I know he's working tonight, so I would motion that we move what I had motioned to be agenda items 10A and B for tanker truck update and North Stillington Volunteer Fire Company carryover discussion. A motion to move those back up to 5A and B. So is there any at 5 and A and B?
You already made something else, 5B.
5A, did 5A here already.
I did? Okay, so then we're gonna make it,
So in this motion to make that 5A and B, and then make the certified resolution 5C.
that's fine. As Christine just stated it, I make that motion.
Second.
Further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, chief, thanks for joining us. Don't want to put you off till the end there. We'd like to recognize you, and thank you for taking time. I know you're working tonight. So basically, I just thought since you were going to be here, you could just update the public on the tanker truck. That's an exciting thing. So maybe just give us a little update on that.
All right, so the truck was received last Thursday. As of 4 PM this evening, it's been placed in service. It is still going through the trial parts of, making sure all the bugs are worked out of it. There's some minor things that it's going to wind up going back to get taken care of. Nothing serious, all small things that typically happen when you buy a truck like this. Other than that, the truck's running good. It's going to be a good truck to serve our community.
Great, thank you. I know it's long awaited. We're excited to see it. And just as a follow-up, now that this truck will be placed into service, we'll be shortly following up with the sale of the truck per any discussions we've had and motions and votes on that. Did the selectmen have any questions on the tanker truck?
Just one, so Chief, when the other truck goes, the new truck goes in for those, working the bugs out you just mentioned, we'll still have the old truck in service, correct?
No, you won't. That truck has to be sold by the 30th, I was advised, so we will not have a tanker in town. We'll be required to have mutual aid cover for us, so it'll be put a delay on tanker response. But again, it's going to be about a week or two without a tanker.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. It's certainly it's not common, I would think, for fire companies to have their trucks need to be worked on mutual aid to help out, so. Okay, so the carryover discussion, Chief. So we have the letter, I put it back in the packet requesting carryover funds. I mentioned to you last meeting, the selectmen did not approve the carryover funds to be carried over. But I also felt like we probably could have used a little bit more information on that discussion. So if you would just give us a little bit more highlights of why this is not a request that we've gotten before. I don't think it's something that's been requested in the past. So maybe just tell us a little bit about what you're looking for here.
All right. So typically, the fire company at the end of the year, we balance out our budget and we return funds that haven't been expended in our budget. This year, we are looking to secure the funds in just the one per diem staffing line to roll it forward. So when the budget passes, it's a little bit lower than what we initially requested. This would compensate for that, but also we're noticing things like snowstorms or hurricanes or special events that we want to have a per diem on. It would give us the ability to put on, a firefighter at night. We have a snowstorm coming, or we have, a hurricane or whatever coming. We can have guaranteed additional staffing in the building that day or overnight. Because again, we only do Monday through Friday day shift. But if we had that little bit of extra money in that account to ensure we were able to staff a weekend or staff a night shift to ensure there's a dedicated driver in the building 24/7, we could do that during a storm, as well as use it for uniforms and additional training for the per diem firefighters.
So that's kind of similar to what we talked about in the last discussion, but I don't know if there's any different feeling from the selectmen. Go ahead, Bob.
So I was probably one of the ones that spoke opposed to this at the last meeting. And I think it's because I was classifying this in the same breath as I was like the rec department in another town group that we've given money to, and they've always had to give back to the town. Listening to public comment, and one of our respected taxpayers had mentioned that I should have really looked at this like we do the real library, where we never ask them, once we give them their money, we don't ask them, if there's any left, then we have it back. And that made a lot of sense to me. So as I gave it more thought that evening, I realized that I kind of lumped you in with the wrong group, and I am now changed my mind in favor of you retaining the overage of what you did spend, rather than as a give back to the town.
Sure.
Tina, do you have any comments about this?
Do we know how much money there is?
Do you have a total, Charlie?
That letter said it was around, I think it was like less than $10,000, I think.
The letter didn't say it, but I think I got a follow-up email that said it.
Oh yeah, I know it was less than $10,000. I don't have the email I'm on my phone, so I don't have it in front of me, but I know it was less than that.
I thought there was an email that had it as 6,000 plus.
Yeah, that sounds like it was less than, it was around, I think it was like $6,500 or $7,000 the last I checked.
And Charlie, do you see this as a one-time request?
Well, yeah, I mean, the way we have it set up is the program is gonna run, and again, you look at it is you have it staffed, 300, 5 days a week, but again, we all know Memorial Day falls on the Monday. So we have money in for that day for our staffing person, so we're not staffing on Memorial Day. So we have a snowstorm. Now I have money to use because Memorial Day was gonna be funded. We move it over to cover storm coverage. But with this moving forward, we should be good.
Okay, thank you.
My only thought about it is with entities in which we give large sums of money to, that we should be getting we should have a policy in place for reporting back to us as those money, as their budgets are spent. And I've gotten that before when I requested it from the fire company, they've given it to me, and not just the fire company, I'm talking about, any organization that we give. I don't know what the threshold would be, but to me, it seems like the town, when the townspeople, as part of tax dollars, are giving a large sum of money or allocating a large sum of money to an entity, there should be some level of reporting back to the town the spending of that organization. So that's just a thought I have. I don't know any feedback on that.
I don't disagree with that, Mike.
I'm not saying that I think it's something that we should discuss more further, not necessarily now, but, I don't see why there'd be any pushback on anything like that from any of the organizations that were funded. I would support it, this time. I don't know that we want to make I don't know if we want to make a habit of it or not. I think we need more discussion about something like that. So I would think if there's any motion, we should probably, mention the fact that we support this one-time, carryover, request of funds. The only thing I have in my email is it was a round number. It was just said $10,000, about $10,000. Okay, so I don't know if we want a motion, something to the effect of a motion to approve the North Somerset Volunteer Fire Company to carry over funding not to exceed $10,000 as a one-time. I
would accept that. I would accept it that way.
Okay, so I guess I'll make that motion. You'll second it.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? Charlie, does that sit well with you?
So, I mean, again, if there's a $10,050 in this account, you want me to write, the fire company to write you a check for the $50 that's left in there? I mean, can we just carry over the?
If you have,
Yeah,
fine. Right, if you had an exact number for me, then.
I'll have to get a hold of the bookkeeper tomorrow to get the exact number, what it will be. But I can get that for you.
Yeah, the problem is it's our last meeting of the fiscal year, and we have to I think we need to put this on record tonight, and all I have is.
Right.
So we'll just keep the motion as it stands, and if you've got 11,000, then just write a check for the 1,000.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what else would you recommend?
You make it simple, you just roll over, we approve to allow the remaining funds from the specific line this is, to be carried over into the next year's budget. And then it's done. But again, I don't think it's going to be 10,000, but I'm just questioning it. For some reason, it's a couple $100 more, but I'm just trying to make it generic, but that's fine. You leave it $10,000, and I don't think it's going to even be that high, but I'll have that number for the three of you available hopefully tomorrow. So you'll actually know the exact number.
I would probably just leave it as is without having any documentation beyond that. I don't think we can. I think that's the best we can do, probably. Okay. Yeah, I think it's good. Okay. Yeah, I mean, thank you for coming back on, Charlie. I'm glad we could get some more information to make this happen for you guys. And obviously, all the things that you need it for are certainly worthy. And you're certainly just serving the community with these funds. So we appreciate it. All those in favor of the motion? Aye. Aye. Motion carries 3-0-0. Thank you, Charlie.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Okay, so the next up is 5C, which was the resolutions. So we had received the planning grant for the John D. Gallup House, and to follow that up is actual funding to do work on the house. We have applied for the grant. We have been indicated that we've received the grant.
You're incorrect.
Juliet, could you explain it to us, please?
Yeah.
I just got this today.
I
so
know. I don't think this was on anyway.
It's on, but for some reason it's not working, so if you want to switch it out with one of the other ones.
Yeah, just take one of those.
The light's on, it's bad, it's just not.
You can take that over.
I don't know.
You can do whatever you want. Take it to your car.
Sweet, fun. So it's confusing because there's two survey and planning grants. So we received one a couple years ago that's finished, it's been closed out. And we just got awarded the second survey and planning grant in order to come up with that very detailed construction documents to be used in the restoration fund grant, which they will make a decision on July 7th. So, but because of the change in staffing and whatnot, these two resolutions have to be done in order to have somebody else as the
Designated
contact
signer.
person.
Right.
For the signer. I still will be here present through the survey and planning grant likely, but I think it's just better and cleaner.
Right. So I'm going to read this, and this is times two. One is for the survey and planning grant, and one is for the housing and restoration fund grant. Reads the town of North Stonington, Board of Selectmen, 40 Main Street, North Stonington, certified resolution. Again, for those two, so two separate, same reading of the resolutions. I and Antoinette Camparo, town clerk of the town of North Stonington, do hereby certify that the following is true and correct copy of resolution duly adopted at a meeting of the Board of Selectmen, town of North Stonington, duly held on June 22nd, 2021, on which a meeting duly constituted a quorum of the Board of Selectmen's president acted throughout, and that such a resolution has not been modified, rescinded, revoked, and is at present in full force and effect. Resolved that Mike Burgos, the first selectman of the town of North Stonington, is empowered to execute and deliver the name of behalf of the town of North Stonington certain contract with the state of Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development, and to affix the corporate seal, if any, in witness whereof the undersigned has affixed his or her signature of the corporate seal of this corporation, if any, this the 23rd day tomorrow of June 2021. So signed by Antoinette. So I just look for a motion to approve. We can approve both of the resolutions.
I would like two separate motions to reflect so that we have them in minutes for the Department of Economic and Community Development, just in case.
So a motion to approve the survey and planning grant resolution. We have one. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. The motion to approve the housing and restoration fund grant resolution. Motion by Anita, second Bob. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Next up, water testing RFP. All right, so I'll give a brief story, and then Julia will probably chime in with thoughts on this as well. So basically, we have to update our plans, and as we're doing that, we need to understand where we have good water, where we want to do, where we can have certain things and where we can't have certain things. This RFP is looking for a company that's going to help us determine a lot of this information. I had a 3-page summary, and then there were a number of addendums that were attached with that. Julia, why don't you fill in the blanks?
Yeah, it's not a water quality testing. It's, so back in back in the 70s or whatnot, we had some issues with water quality in the town that was stemming from bad septic systems. So it's, I had this question today, actually. So this isn't like testing your wells. Nobody's gonna come and test your water in your house or something like that. There were 44 sites designated in 1994. There were 33 in the 70s, but up to 44 surface water, with the exception of the rest area, which they do test the well water there, and the landfill or transfer station, they test the water there. So basically, though, between the 70s, even the 90s, and today, a lot of development has occurred, and we've changed some zones, and we need to get some baseline data as well over in the resort commercial zone, because it's a new zone, and they're contemplating extending the sewer district, creating a sewer district up there. So we have to get that baseline done. The 44 sites that were selected don't have to be the sites, but it would be nice to compare the results with the ones that were done in the 90s, and then we are gonna discuss with whoever you hire, to look at the data on where the development has occurred, maybe drive around, I don't know, but figure out if there are more appropriate sites to be included. But basically, it's the rivers that come through and the tributaries, and down near Kingswood Meadowwood and swampy area there, down Cedar Ridge in the village, and I would ask that we include the lakes this time, so we can figure out how much of an issue we have up there. And then all of that will go eventually into your updated sewer plan or POCD or both. So now's the time. The sewer plan was supposed to be done in 2020, so not a big deal, but this is the first step.
So this is the first step, that's the key, trying to gather this information. And we do have funds for this in capital. What we think, we don't actually know how much it costs when we do the RFP for it. Once we know, then we can determine if we have the funds or not.
Do a ballpark idea of cost.
No, I have no idea.
So this hasn't been done in 27 years. Is there a reason for that?
Little tension between the WPCA and the sanitarian at one point led to some delays, and then the WPCA didn't really exist. They weren't active.
We didn't have it when we all became selectmen. The WPCA had just been reformed. There actually was no active WPCA. I think it was just a month or two before we came in. It was reformed.
It was reformed right before Milltown Commons, because they were contemplating a treatment plan, and also the affordable housing project on Route 2 was contemplating a package plant. And so they redid their regs in 2010, created the sewer district in 94, but it just never happened. We don't know why, but.
And we have to do this sewer plan. We're supposed to have done it in 2020 by state statute.
It's a long drawn out story between DEP mandating that we tie into Stonington at one point, because they felt that we would potentially pollute the waters of the state. That was Order 84, I think it's called. And back in the day, we were able to delay them, and we did the water testing to prove that it wasn't a big enough issue to have to tie in to Stonington, and that's where it's sat. So we actually have no idea if we're creating pollution in the waters of the state actively, but that plan stated that this would be reviewed and renewed by 2020, when they anticipated more of a need to tie in or provide sewers. This may be our way of saying, actually, we're perfectly fine and we can delay it further, but at some point you're gonna have to show that you're not.
Or the other side of it is, anytime you do testing, it could show something not good too, you really don't know, I mean.
Right, and then, so say that scenario happened down by Quinlan's or something like that, then that's when you get to tap into those other funds to pay for it, because you have to do something. It's, Stonington doesn't get to say no. You have to fix the problem, so that
State of the
DEP
mandate.
can come in and mandate that you do something. But that's only if there's an issue, so hopefully there won't be.
And what kind of time frame you get to study like this done? Is it months, 3 months, 6 months?
The water testing,
Mhm.
having done that as a job at one point, it's not that big. 44 sites take a couple days to collect it and then send it off to a lab and wait for the results. So there's a little time to compare the two results or summarize the data.
So we should have results in less than a month.
If you hire somebody, right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, well, we have dates on the RFP that's gonna put us out probably a month before we even select someone, and then, if we put a timetable on it for them to do the work, a couple months, probably have some info.
And they might have some suggestions. It's usually time of year, multiple times a year. You don't just do it once in a drought and not,
Yeah,
I think before they did it at 2 different sampling dates.
and, I'll just say, we have money in the water sewer capital line for this, but actually clean water is one of the priority items for the rescue plan, is rescue money as well. So we have some options there, should we end up needing more funding, or perhaps that's what we use the fund, we use some of that funding for, so. Is there any, other questions or feedback, or are we good to approve, the RFP, and move forward with advertising?
Yeah, I read the RFP and it looks fine, so I would make a motion to approve the RFP as presented to us.
Is there a second? Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Juliet. American Rescue Funding discussion. So I don't want to get too into this tonight. But I wanted to put it on the agenda because I think we're going to have multiple discussions about this. What I did was I put a draft together for you guys to take a look at. And I think we should come back to our next meeting with thoughts about it. So I'll just pass that along to you guys and you can take a look at it. Thank you, Daryl. So what you have before you are suggestions that I have based on the meeting that we had with all the boards and commissions. And based on also a very robust discussion I had with both Christine and Juliet. So the 3 of us sat down, kind of looked at the feedback we received from that meeting, and also, things that we feel are important to the town. I'll also, the other reason I don't want to really get too much into it tonight is I have 2 meetings coming up with the Connecticut Council of Governments tomorrow and then the following Wednesday, where I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion about what other towns are doing and stuff like that. So I'll kind of get some of that feedback and bring it back for our next meeting. So we can talk about the next meeting if that works. I'm sure we'll talk about it in multiple meetings. And I'll just mention, because it did come up at the last Board of Finance meeting, as it relates to spending this money, we had some, I would say, disagreement between the auditor and the town attorney on how we allocate those, how we're able to expend those funds. So my opinion is to err on the side of caution, and I would assume we'd all agree on that, as long as we are able to go to the town through the normal appropriation process, that we would just follow that process. So we'll go to the Board of Finance and then to town meeting for the expenditure of those funds, unless there's some reason we can't do that. That the auditor actually said that that's not what we need to do. It's not required, but if we can do that, I just assume do it. It's just more safer, more discussion for people, and so. Okay, moving on then. Okay. Speed hump updates. So we have been talking about the speed humps, and I did provide in the packet along some guidelines that were provided to us from Don Hill, Highway Foreman, as well as a letter from him on his thoughts on how we should move forward with the speed humps. So basically, because of the intricacy of the installation of these things, his opinion is that it would be best for the town for us to probably contract out to have these installed, to make sure that they're installed properly and to the correct specifications that they should be. We can do that either through, a bidding process, or if there's somebody on the state bid list, we can do it that way. The other thing is, I did speak with DJ. Finally, I was able to get a text back from him tonight, and we do have a map of where we indicated we thought the speed bump should go, but we also know that we have to make sure from a drainage perspective, as Donnie said in his letter, and as it is indicated in the paperwork we have, that they go in a place that's not going to affect, create a drainage problem on the roads. So what I was going to suggest to make sure that we continue with moving forward on this is that I get some sort of motion to proceed with drafting an RFP or looking at the state bid list to contract to install the speed humps. I don't need to bring it back to you guys unless you want to see it, but just to move it forward. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes. You just
So-
talk to the mic.
Have we made the decision on humps versus bumps?
Yeah.
That is done deal?
That's a done deal.
That's.
It's humps. It's been humps. It's never changed from humps.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, Bob?
Okay, so, I spoke to Donnie about this about a month and a half ago, we talked about a lot of things. When the speed humps come up, I said to him, who's doing them? And so we were gonna do them in-house at the time. And I said, well, do you know how to do speed humps? I mean, that's something you know how to do, you've done that before. And as you just mentioned, Mike, there's drainage issues. And the worst thing to do is put these in and then have them not perform. Either they're not the right height, the right degree to have cars go over the speed limit that we want them to. We could cause puddling in somebody's yard that didn't get puddling before. They could deteriorate within a short period of time, and now we've got a new problem. So my feeling is, I said, Don, why aren't we doing this by bid? This should go out to experts who do this for a living. The last thing we need to do at the town hall is get bills on cars that say my car was destroyed because I went over the hump at the proper speed limit. And we can't prove that the speed hump was done correctly, so we don't have much of a leg to stand on. If they're done to a certain criteria, then we know that that person went over the hump at the wrong speed. So the town should not be liable on damage to the car. Just, we want to limit our exposure, and we want to do them right the first time. So I know a lot of times people accuse us to do things too fast, right? And then sometimes we're accused of doing things too slow. I think it depends on the initiative and what it means to you personally and what your opinion is. But as someone said to me, a really smart person I respect, said to me, there's always time to do it right. So because there's always time to do it right, that's the way we should do it. So I'm not opposed to sending this out to bid, that people do it the way that they're supposed to do it, so we don't get the negative feedback down the road. I mean, we haven't had them to this point. There's no sense of doing them, and if we do them wrong, I have to redo them a year from now. So I saw Donnie's letter. I read all the details on speed humps and speed tables and speed bumps, and I think we're going about it the right way, having people to do this for a living, know what they're doing. So I'm all for it. Taking a little bit longer and doing it right.
I would agree that it's better to go out, I would agree that it's better to go out and have professionals in doing the whole thing. No question. I mean, the roads are not that easy to take care of.
Well, I think our crew does a great job, but something like this seems like it's probably not that big a deal or not that complicated, but I think for all the points you just mentioned, Bob, it's probably a good deal. So I'm not sure that we'll bid it or if we'll just look to the bid list. Well, either way, it's completely acceptable. So what I'll do is after this conversation, I'll get Donnie on that tomorrow, and we'll get it rolling. And like I said, I talked to DJ who had helped us to determine where we thought they should go. He's gonna come in with the map tomorrow that he has. And so we'll use that and we'll get it rolling.
The eventual person or company that does this can look at that map and say, that looks good to me, or maybe we should rethink it, correct?
Yep.
And those positions aren't in stone.
No, I think we just put them where we think makes sense, but again, they're gonna have, you know, the professional observation of what they think makes the most sense, so. Sorry, I have another meeting at 7, which I know we'll be late to. Moving on from that then.
All right, so there's no motion, they were just gonna say that we're moving forward.
I don't think I mean, we've already voted to do this, so this is just a discussion item that we're all nodding our heads in agreement with this, so I think we're fine. So I will do that tomorrow. Tax refunds, we have a couple.
So I would make a motion to approve the tax refunds as submitted in our package for a total of $1,905.68.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
There's some minutes.
I'll do the, we'll get a lot of practice. So we'll start with June 8th. So the Board of Selectmen special meeting is a Zoom meeting on June 8th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. My motion that we accept the minutes as presented by Bailey.
And I seconded.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. I make a motion that we approve the Board of Selectmen Zoom meeting minutes of June 8th, 2021 at 6 p.m. as submitted by Bailey.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Nita. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Finally, we have, I make a motion that we just approve the Board of Selectmen special meeting minutes, June 17th, 2021 at 12 p.m. Those were submitted by Bailey.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Public comment on agenda items.
To
Oh, I'm so sorry, I skipped over that. That was the 4 minutes. I have nothing to report on selectmen's expenses, number 10. Public comments on agenda items. Already?
Carolyn Hall, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
I just happened to go down, I think it's Noank or Groton Long Point, wherever they have, must be Noank, where Abbott's is over the weekend. And they had speed humps. And I don't know, I just don't agree with the speed humps personally. I don't think it's going to solve the problem. I also, I'm just thinking we are a historic town. And I'm just trying to imagine, like, if somebody had a hayride with a wagon, horses, coming through the village trying to go over these things. Never mind the potential problems that you're going to have if you have somebody who's not qualified doing this sort of work. I don't think that we should be trying to do things the cheapest way. We should be doing them the proper and best way. And we should vet out all the potential problems that could arise. Again, I'm just going to say it, haste makes waste, and I just don't agree with that. So that's all for me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thanks, Carolyn. I don't know if maybe you didn't hear what we said. We're going to hire a professional to do that. So just to clarify. Any other comments?
Brian, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, one thing, it's hard to understand what you're saying. You're still getting a lot of echo coming through the computer. I don't know if that can be remedied or not by putting microphones closer or whatever. I wasn't quite sure what you said about the water testing, but I was wondering if you're gonna test the water over by the Shell station, that little pond area there, simply because the schools are over there and I hate to see the sewer go into there if you never know where it's gonna go. And then when I was reading on I got the email about we're voting on the budget on the 28th, correct?
Yes,
And then we got a town meeting on the 29th. That's for something totally different.
yes.
Okay. I was confused. I didn't know if it was a typo somewhere. That's all.
Brian, can I ask you a clarification question on your first comment on the audio quality? Is it when everyone speaks or just when any particular person was speaking that you were having trouble hearing?
I have no idea what somebody said then.
I think, there you go. But I think, if people have speakers, a lot of times that's part of the problem. People need speakers attached to their computer systems, and I think the sound's better than, we keep trying to make improvements. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Carolyn, go ahead.
I can speak to what Brian's referring to. It's when you're speaking into the microphone and you're not actually right in front of it. It's fading in and out. So it is very difficult to hear. It just sounds muffled and you're only getting parts of the conversation, at least from our end of it.
Thank you.
You all set?
That appears to be our last hand.
With no other comments, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Yeah, I'm gonna go on it right now. It's a sustainability.